Pinakaayaw ko pong nickname ko pag hindi sang-ayon yung nakikinig is Bayarang Abogado daw. Anyway po, I am back after I believe 3-day absence. So ngayon po, papag-usapan natin tong away between the Office of the Vice President and the House of Representatives. Tungkol po to dun sa budget deliberations ng OVP kung saan si VP Sara po ay hindi siya personally umattend dun sa last day. Okay? And then ipapakita ko na lang po sa inyo yung communications between the OVP and the House kasi meron naman po silang mga love letter nagpadala po si OVP prior dun sa actual day na hindi siya umattend. Okay? So yan po yung magiging discussion natin, and after this video po, pag-usapan naman natin yung sa Senate issue naman tungkol sa Blue Ribbon hearing, and then yung mga parinig-parinig ni Senator JV na 5 daw sa kanila sa majority gustong umalis. Pero yung video po na yan will be an hour more or less after the upload of this video po. Pero for this video, ang papag-usapan po muna natin is si Vice President Sara at yung House of Representatives.
Compared to the Office of the Vice President, plenary budget deliberations scheduled on September 30, 2025 at 10 a.m. The following OVP officials will attend the plenary budget deliberation, namely Lemuel G. Ortonio, OIG Chief of Staff / Assistant Secretary. Second, Attorney Rosalyn P. Sanchez, Director for Administrative and Financial Services. The third is Attorney Sunshine Shari E. Fajarda, Director for Strategy and Management Office. And the fourth is Norman B. Palaro, Director for Operation. Also attached is the list of personnel who will provide technical support and assistance during the said deliberation. We will provide an update in case of changes, bar inclusion of additional attendees. Attorney Kelvin Jerome A. Tiñedo, Chief of Administrative Officer, will closely coordinate with you on this matter. You may reach him via email at blah 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 and so on and so forth. Signed, Sara Zimmerman Duterte, Vice President.
Okay, so quick comment lang guys. So kung makikita po ninyo itong letter ni VP Sara, September 25 daw po to, sabi ni Congressman Alvarez, this is a letter kung saan nag-designate po yung OVP na mag-appear on her behalf. Okay, so yung pinakauna po dyan is si Lemuel G. Ortonio, which is yung OIC Chief of Staff / Assistant Secretary level po. Okay, so anyway, tuloy po tayo.
Subsequently, Mr. Speaker, on September 29, we received another letter in the address to the address showing an office order number 2025-51, dated September 2025. In the exigency of service, Assistant Secretary Lemuel G. Ortonio is hereby designated as officer in charge of the Office of the Chief of Staff in view of the leave of absence of Attorney Zulaika T. Lopez, the USEC. By virtue of this order, ASIC Ortonio shall perform the duties and responsibilities of Chief of Staff, including the authority to sign Civil Service Commission appointment papers related to the document of the first and second level positions, except for the duties as head of the procuring entity, which shall be delegated to Attorney Rosalyn T. Sanchez, Director 4 of the Administrative and Financial Service Office. This order shall take effect from 29 September. This is the second letter, Mr. Speaker. And on September...
So comment lang muna tayo ulit guys. So kung makikita po nyo dito, in-emphasize ni OVP na si Lemuel G. Ortonio is hereby designated as officer in charge of the Office of the Chief of Staff kasi nag-leave po si Attorney Zulaika T. Lopez. And the reason po more or less kaya to in-emphasize talaga ng OVP is kasi po si Lemuel G. Ortonio is Assistant Secretary level po siya, mababa po. Kasi ano po yan Secretary, Undersecretary, then Assistant Secretary. Yung Office of the Vice President po, or yung Vice President mismo, hindi po yan siya Secretary, pero same naman po yan siya na National Government Office. Therefore, yung mga sa baba po ng Vice President ay Undersecretaries at Assistant Secretaries pa rin po yung tawag. So anyway po, ang main point ko lang dito, since si Lemuel G. Ortonio, despite him being an Assistant Secretary only, since he is currently designated as the officer in charge of the Office of the Chief of Staff, therefore, yung function po niya at present because of this order is similar or equivalent to an undersecretary function. Okay, so yan ang po gusto ko emphasize kasi dapat yung mga mag-a-appear kasi is yung pinaka-head ng department or pag mag-designate, dapat yung i-designate is at least undersecretary. Yan po yung nakasanayan sa House. Pero dito nga, since Lemuel G. Ortonio, Assistant Secretary lang siya, posible magka-issue. However, since na-designate siya sa Office of the Chief of Staff as officer in charge, therefore, undersecretary level po yung function niya. Yan lang po yung gusto ko emphasize. Ngayon, tuloy naman po tayo.
Number 30, we received another letter addressed to our Chair, Micaela Angela Swansing, Chairperson, Committee on Appropriations, House of Representatives. Dear Honorable Swansing, it has come to my attention that the Office of the Vice President, OVP, enclosed in parentheses, budget for 902.895 million pesos has been deferred due to the committee's insistence that I attend the plenary deliberations. I am prepared to attend. However, I am seeking the following. House of Representatives demand the attendance of President Marcos for the 27.3 billion pesos budget deliberation of the Office of the President. Number two, alternatively, I will attend if the Committee on Good Government and Public Accountability will produce before the plenary schedule a Department of Justice DOJ document confirming that the Immigration Lookout Bulletin Order or ILBO for the following OVP personnel have been lifted. Two conditions, Mr. Speaker. For the following personnel, Attorney Zulaika T. Lopez, Mr. Lemuel G. Ortonio, Attorney Rosalind L. Sanchez, Attorney Sunshine Sari E. Fajarda, Miss Gina F. Acosta, Miss Juliet Villa del Rey, and Mr. Edward D. Fajarda. Let me know by written communication how you wish to proceed. Thank you for the attention on this matter. Very truly yours. Signed, Sara Zimmerman Duterte, Vice President.
Okay, so comment ulit tayo guys. So kung makita po ninyo, dinefer 2 beses na yung budget deliberations ng OVP, and the reason being is kasi wala po personally si VP Sara, okay? Pero dito ang naging problema, si VP Sara or yung OVP po may dinesignate naman na nagpa-perform ng undersecretary level. However, despite that designation, nire-require pa rin po si VP Sara mag-personally appear ng House. At dahil doon, nag-respond ngayon si Vice President Sara, yung pinakita kanina ni Congressman Alvarez. Yung una daw doon, dapat si President Marcos pilitin din mag-appear and defend ng budget niya. Or pangalawa, tanggalin yung lookout bulletin against doon certain officials po ng Office of the Vice President. Okay, so yan po yung rason kaya nagkaroon ng bangayan dito yung OVP at yung House of Representatives. And then may mga manifestations pa po dito si Congressman Laila de Lima at si Congressman Tinio. Pero hindi ko na po ipe-play kasi masyado po tayong mapapahaba eh. Pero yung main point nila dito, because daw of the quote-unquote brattiness ni Vice President Sara Duterte, gusto nila ipa-slash yung budget ng OVP. Okay? Kasi dapat daw hindi ganun na nagde-demand yung OVP sa House kasi this is the budget making process. Therefore, this is a constitutional process. So yung dinidisrespect daw po ng OVP is the Constitution. Hindi po sila ng mga congressman. Therefore, dahil nga ganun, gusto nila ipa-slash yung budget. Okay, so yan na po yung summary ng manifestation nito ni Congressman Laila de Lima and Congressman Tinio. Hindi na po natin ipa-play kasi masyado na pong mahaba yung facts natin. Okay? Anyway, ngayon punta na po tayo sa mga legal discussion. So ang masasagot ko po dyan is hindi po pwede i-compel ng House of Representatives umattend yung Office of the Vice President or the Vice President po dun sa budget deliberations. Kasi unang-una po I tried looking dun sa internal rules ng House of Representatives. Yung 20th Congress po hindi pa sila nag-publish ng rules nila. So wala po akong makita about the 20th Congress. And then after po nyan I reviewed the 19th Congress internal rules. Wala rin pong nakalagay dun specifically about the Office of the Vice President. Meron po about department heads, pero for the OVP, wala pong nakalagay dun. Okay? So ang next po nating titingnan dyan or ang pwede nating tingnan is yung Article 6, Section 22 of the 1987 Constitution pa rin po to. So ang nakalagay po dito, the heads of department may upon their own initiative with the consent of the President or upon the request of either House, as the rule of each House shall provide, appear before and be heard by such House on any matter pertaining to their departments. Okay? So ito, pinakita ko lang sa inyo kasi ito yung parang closest na rule na I'm guessing pinapagbasihan ng House para i-compel po si Vice President Sara Duterte as the head of the OVP umattend. However, ang kailangan po kasi natin i-take note dito is that ang nakalagay sa provision to be specific is the heads of department upon their own initiative with the consent of the President. Diba? So itong provision na to, makikita natin na this does not apply to the OVP kasi hindi naman kailangan ng consent ng President para gumalaw po yung OVP, di ba? Because the Office of the Vice President po, hindi naman yun siya department lang under the Office of the President, di ba? Yung Office of the Vice President, that is a office or a position which is constitutionally created kung saan inelect din po directly ng taong bayan yung nakaupong Vice President doon. So from there pa lang po, since wala tayong makita sa internal rules ng House or from dito rin sa Constitution, wala tayong makita na nagsasabi pwede i-compel ng Congress yung OVP. So ang next po niyan ngayon, itong ginagawa ng Congress or ng HOR is most likely what we call again a tradition sa House, 'di ba? Pero just like any other tradition, hindi naman po talaga yan set in stone kasi hindi po yan siya batas talaga, nakasanayan lang po yan na ini-invite palagi po yung office of the Vice President. Okay? So if there is a congressman watching me or watching this video, feel free to correct me po. But after conducting my proper research regarding this, hindi ko po makita sa internal rules ng 19th Congress, sa 20th Congress rules, hindi rin po nakapublish pa sa website. And then sa Constitution, wala rin naman po. So pag ganyan, hindi po natin pwede basta-basta i-compel kasi pwede po yan ma-argue ngayon as what we call grave abuse of discretion, di ba? Since wala naman po yan sa authority ng House of Representatives based sa internal rules nila or sa Constitution, okay? At ang sagot po dyan, hindi naman mandatory na yung department head lang talaga yung a-attend. Okay, general rule lang po to na the head of departments may upon their own initiative or upon the request of either house. Okay, so that's the general rule. However po, just like most of the general rules dito sa bansa natin, meron din po yung exceptions, di ba? So one exception dito is if it will be unreasonable or impossible for the department head to attend dun sa hearing po in Congress. Okay? So dito ang ginawa naman ng OVP niya who is performing undersecretary functions kasi OIC siya ng Chief of Staff. Therefore, in that situation po, pwede po sana yun makonsider as valid designation of authority ng OVP dun sa assistant secretary nila. Okay? Kasi kung tatandaan po natin, hindi naman po to budget of the Vice President or nung person himself or herself. This is the budget po of the office of the Vice President, di ba? Therefore, if there is a person with technical expertise or skills who can explain and who is validly designated by the office or by the department, edi dapat ni-recognize na po yung personality niya nung house considering nga meron namang designation na ginawa yung OVP dun sa ASEC nila. So, i-summarize ko lang po, ang general rule dapat heads of departments ang mag-appear. However, kung meron ngang circumstances na mag-render as impossible or unreasonable para sa department head mismo yung umattend, pwede naman po siya mag-designate niyan ng person with sufficient expertise para mag-represent dun sa office nila. Which is na-comply naman po ng OVP dito kasi they designated nga yung ASEC nila na naging OIC Chief of Staff, therefore performing undersecretary functions na. Okay, so hopefully klaro po yan. Nagkaroon po ng valid justification considering nagka-earthquake po, 'di ba, sa Cebu yung 6.9 magnitude 6.9 na earthquake. Therefore, of course, as the Vice President, meron din po siyang functions to address the direct needs or the immediate concerns po of the Filipino people, which is yun yung ginawa niya. Pumunta po siya sa Cebu. And then kung isa-search nyo lang po yan sa balita, madami naman pong lalabas dyan na si Sara Duterte is in Cebu until October 2 to visit communities affected by the magnitude 6.9 earthquake. So kung dito po ngayon makikita natin, magbabanggaan yung duty ng isang public servant po dun sa pagsagot sa mga budget concerns versus dun sa trabaho niya for immediately addressing the concerns of yung affected victims ng earthquake. So from there, makikita po natin na meron namang valid justification. Hindi naman yon outright brattiness lang kaya hindi siya umattend kasi nagkaroon po ng natural calamity, 'di ba? And hindi rin kasi tayo pwede mag-speculate na baka kung hindi to nagkaroon ng natural calamity, baka hindi po siya umattend kasi yung let pa lang yun, October 2 pa naman po yung hearing. Kung hindi po nagkaroon ng natural calamity, malay po ba natin kung biglang nagbago isip ni VP Sara at umattend siya dun sa October 2 hearing. However po, due to the circumstances that transpired, hindi na po talaga umattend si VP Sara kasi mas pinili po niya i-address muna yung immediate concerns ng victims ng magnitude 6.9 earthquake sa Cebu. Okay? So, yan lang po ang gusto ko lang i-discuss kasi despite the bangayan, nagkaroon naman po ng valid justification eh. So, yan lang po ang gusto ko sabihin on the matter. So, klaruhin ko lang po. Initially, meron namang validly designate yung Office of the Vice President. However, ayaw tanggapin ng House. And then, nagsumulat si VP Sara. May gumawa siya ng mga demands. Pero despite nga yung demands na yon, nagkaroon ng natural calamity. So ngayon, nagkaroon po ng valid reason si VP Sara to not attend kasi she attended the immediate concern muna ng mga victims ng earthquake. Okay, so anyway po, ang next question naman natin dyan. So ang mangyayari naman po dyan, kahit hindi umattend si VP Sara sa budget deliberations, is that mag-proceed pa rin po yan yung budget process. Kasi ang important po dito na tandaan talaga natin is that the quote-unquote power of the purse po is with the legislative branch of the government natin, di ba? The Congress. Therefore, kahit na po hindi umattend si VP Sara, or let's say kahit umattend siya, tas dinefend niya, pwede pa rin naman po yan baguhin ng Congress at the end of the day kung ano yung magiging final budget. Kasi yun nga po, the power of the purse is specifically vested with the Congress, di ba? Therefore, nagkaroon lang ng misunderstandings or bangayan between the parties, but the budget process will still proceed po. Tapos kung gustuhin talaga dito nila Congressman De Lima, Congressman Tino, and the other members of the House i-slash or i-cut yung budget ng OVP, nasa sa power naman po talaga yan ng Congress. Kasi yun nga, they have the power of the purse, di ba? So kung ako po tatanungin, wala naman talagang issue legally kasi the budget process will still proceed nga po. Nagkaroon lang ngayon ng parang misunderstanding. Tawagin na lang nating misunderstanding between the House of Representatives and the Office of the Vice President. Okay? And then lastly po ito, magbibigay lang din ako ng personal observation ko as a political observant. Okay? So ito pong nangyayari between the House of Representatives and the Office of the Vice President. This is a very good example po of a situation kung saan pumapasok yung tinatawag na personal politics. Diba? So ang ibig sabihin ko po niyan, yung House of Representatives kasi and the Office of the Vice President din, parang nagkaroon na sila ng personal issues or personal away between them. Therefore, hindi na nila tinitingnan talaga yung mga offices nila. Kung hindi, parang inaatake na nila directly yung mga tao involved dun sa office. Kasi yung Congress, ayaw nila sa mga Duterte. And then si OVP, ayaw din niya yung mga leaders sa Congress. So kahit na Congress yan, parang nakikita na lang niya na, ito yung mga congressman na pinagtripan ako nung 19 Congress. So iaano ko rin sila, papagtripan. So again, this is just a good example kung saan pag nakalimutan na natin yung mga constitutional mandate and then napapasukan na ng personal politics, nagkakaroon po talaga ng bangayan, di ba? Kasi kung meron sana lang silang mga respect with one another, kung example, yung House of Representatives, di ba meron po yan silang mga tradition respecting the OVP in relation to the budget making process. However, yung Congress, hindi nila yun in-apply kay Vice President Sara Duterte, di ba? And the reason kung bakit hindi nila yun in-apply, kung ako po ang tatanungin ninyo, ang personal opinion ko po doon is because more or less baka majority ng congressman or yung leaders po ng Congress ayaw kay VP Duterte. In short, ayaw po sa isang Duterte. So mas nagiging aggressive po sila sa Office of the Vice President because Duterte ang nakaupo. And then si VP Duterte, since napikon na rin siya sa mga ginagawa ng House, yun, inaatake na rin niya directly yung mga congressmen. Okay? So again, this is just a good example po kung saan pumapasok na nga yung personal politics. Nakalimutan na natin yung mga constitutional duties of both houses. So anyway po, ang pinaka-point ko lang talaga dito, to avoid sana yung mga ganitong issues, dapat sana nag-stick lang sila dun sa professionalism between them. Kasi si VP Sara, hindi ko sila po mabiblame. I'll be completely honest with all of you. Hindi ko mabiblame si VP Sara na ganito yung treatment niya sa House kasi of course, grabe din naman po yung pinagdaanan nila during the 19th Congress, yung OVP, di ba? And yung House of Representatives, hindi ko rin po yun sila mabiblame na medyo pikon din sila kay VP Sara ngayon kasi syempre ikaw ba naman, di ba, biglang padalhan ng mga demands, di ba? But again, this is just an example po kung saan nagbabatuhan na lang po sila, nag-aasara na lang po sila basically kasi nagkaroon na nga ng mga personal bangayan between the parties. Okay, so anyway po, hopefully klaro yung discussion natin. After 1 hour po, more or less, next naman, pag-usapan natin yung sa Senate issue naman, yung tungkol po sa Blue Ribbon na kinancel and then yung mga parinig-parinig nila Senator JV na 5 daw sila gusto umalis sa majority. So anyway po, kita-kits tayo 1 hour from now. Okay?